On this episode, we chat with Kenyan Ambassador to Thailand, Lindsay Kiptiness.
So if you want to learn more about Kenya and its diplomatic relationship with Thailand, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee crap, this be the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 to explore my deepest carnal desires and managed to find them at Nana Plaza. Specifically, the guy outside the front door who cooks burgers at 2 a.m. Damn, are they delicious.
Dude, back in my omnivorous days, I had way too many of those things.
Nana burgers, so good.
They're so good. I don't want to know what's in them, but they're good. And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 21 years ago. Fell in love with the Thai expression of surprise, oh ho, and I never left.
Oh, I thought I was talking to a Thai person for a second there.
I've been working on that, that expression. It's so, there's something so cute about it. Oh ho.
I'm also a big fan of oi.
Oi, yeah, that's another one. That's that's the abrupt surprise. Yeah. I think I learned oho from watching soccer and like the Thai commentators. So if there's like a good shot or it's heading towards the goal, they'll be like, "Oh my God!" It's kind of like the Thai equivalent of "Oh my God" or "Holy shit!" Like, look at this. You know what I mean? Oho. We want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Chanon Setiwan, who supports us at the show shout-out level. Stick around after our interview with Kenyan Ambassador Lindsay Kiptiness to hear why you can take Chanon out of Thailand, but you can't take the Thailand out of Chanon. We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a whole bunch of cool stuff, including our ad-free regular show a day early, behind the scenes, photos and videos of our interviews, discounts on swag, access to our Discord server, and various other things that aren't available to regular listeners. But best of all, patrons like Chanon also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and random topics. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about the ongoing feud between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, the ongoing debate between Greg and I over how nice Patti is, and how Greg may be slowly coming over to my side, and a deep dive into Thai bureaucracy with my story that gives new meaning to the word nonsensical. To become a patron, head to bangkokpodcast.com/support.
All right, on this episode, we are pleased to welcome a man by the name of Lindsay Kiptiness, who is the Kenyan Ambassador to Thailand. Now, I've never been to Kenya. Ed, have you?
I have not.
No, but a lot of my friends have, and it seems like a wonderfully interesting place. So I got to thinking, it sure would be cool if the Kenyan Ambassador would come on the show to educate us about his home country, as well as its relationship with my adopted home country of Thailand. So, on a whim, I sent an email, and boom, here we are. Now, Ambassador Kiptiness has a long resume doing stints in Kenya, Turkey, Botswana, and Sudan. He has a master's degree in peace and conflict studies and has attended diplomacy and strategic studies courses in India, Pakistan, the USA, and Ethiopia. A quick note, this interview was done over WhatsApp, so it's a little bit tinny compared to how we sound right now, but still totally fine to listen to. So Ambassador Kiptiness was a very cool guy, and here is our interview. Okay, well, we are very excited today to have someone to the show whom I've never met, but I'm looking forward to learning a lot from, and that is His Excellency Lindsay Kiptiness, who is the Kenyan Ambassador to Thailand. Sir, welcome to the Bangkok Podcast.
Thank you.
It's good to have you on the show, and I have to be honest with you. I would like to interview a lot of ambassadors to Thailand to sort of hear what they do, and I was thinking like, a few months ago, we talked to the Canadian ambassador, and I was thinking of who would be a good ambassador from a country that I don't know a lot about, that Thailand might not be like famously involved with, but who would be able to teach me a lot. And I thought of Kenya, because a good friend of mine in high school, when we graduated from university, he's an old friend of mine. He went to live on Lamu for a year. and he told me some amazing stories of Kenya and Africa. I've never been. I would love to go. And so I want to hear more about your country and how it works with Thailand to achieve diplomatic greatness.
Thank you so much. I am privileged and honored to be in this interview, and I look forward to interacting with you more closely. And I am here to make sure that you visit Kenya one of these fine days, the cradle of mankind.
It is the cradle of mankind. I mean, that's where it all began, right? So let's not go back in history that far. Let's just go back to you. So can you tell us how you got started and how you ended up in Thailand, what your background is?
Thank you very much once again. As I said, my name is Lindsay Kiptiness. I am the ambassador of Kenya to the Kingdom of Thailand. I am also accredited to Vietnam, to Cambodia, Laos PDR, and Myanmar. I was appointed the ambassador of Kenya in October last year. And prior to that, I was the director for Asia Pacific Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Okay.
And prior to that, I was the deputy director in the same department. And before that, I have worked in Turkey. I've worked in the Sudan, when it was called the Sudan, before South Sudan broke away. Mm-hmm. I've also worked in Botswana. And again, prior to joining the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I was a district officer. A district officer is equivalent to an administrator working under the presidency or under the office of the president.
Okay.
And even before that, I was a teacher. So I've had a long life in the public service, from a teacher, from a district officer, to a foreign service officer, and now to an ambassador.
Amazing.
Thank
and
you.
You started out as a geography teacher in high school, is that right?
Correct. Geography and history teacher.
Amazing.
In high school.
What a career you've had. Now the thing about your service in Thailand that's kind of a bummer is that you only got here 6 months ago. Am I right?
Correct. 6 months ago, on 11th of March, actually.
So, you and I chatted a little bit before our interview here, and you were saying that you really haven't had an opportunity to take advantage of your position and explore Thailand, which is something I bet you're looking forward to doing.
You're very right. That's the worst thing that has happened to me, actually. You can imagine staying in the house or in the office for the last 6 months since arriving. And upon arriving, of course, I had to do the 14 days quarantine in a hotel, in isolation, where I was even isolated from my wife, from my son. Everyone was staying in their own room, and we were not even required to meet. We only met through Zoom. So it's been a very difficult life. And I came to Thailand with a wide portfolio of the things that I was going to do. I really looked forward to hitting the ground and running. Before coming here, we used to hear very good stories about how Thailand and Southeast Asia is managing COVID-19. Unfortunately, upon our arrival, when the third wave hit the country, it's not been the same. So really, I have wanted to travel to Phuket, to northern Thailand, where we have a Kenya house, and visit people and community, test the various food items in Thailand. But because of COVID, I have not been able to move out much. And having survived the COVID in Kenya, I have been very shy to venture out.
Oh, you had COVID when you were in Kenya?
Yes, I had COVID. I survived COVID, yes.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. So let's talk a little bit about the relationship between Thailand and Kenya then. What's that like? When did it begin? And what is the landscape of that?
Kenya and Thailand enjoy cordial relations, just like with the other countries that I am also accredited to. Thailand opened an embassy in Nairobi in 1967, quite a long time. We did not open an embassy here, but in 1992, we established a consulate, which then translated into a fully fledged embassy in 2006. So since 2006, we have had a fully fledged embassy with an ambassador. We have had 2 ambassadors. I am the 3rd ambassador. And we have engaged Thailand in various sectors to promote bilateral relations, political relations, trade and economic relations, cultural relations, environmental diplomacy, as well as people-to-people exchange. We have worked together to deepen cooperation in the health sector. Thailand has a very good universal health coverage. It has achieved almost a near universal health coverage. And Kenya has been learning quite a lot from Thailand in terms of also promoting the health systems in Kenya.
Interesting. How does the healthcare system in Kenya compare to Thailand's healthcare system?
Of course, Thailand is miles ahead of us. As I said, they have achieved a near universal health coverage. Many Kenyans come to Thailand for medical tourism.
Oh.
Yes, but we are also developing a robust healthcare system. And just for your information, during the COVID-19, most of last year, Kenya was the center for most of the treatment for UN peacekeeping operations in East and Central Africa. Most people from Somalia, from South Sudan, Central Africa came to Kenya for purposes of treatment for COVID-19. So we also have a robust health system, courtesy of cooperation with countries like Thailand, the UK, with China, with Japan, and South Korea. So we have a robust system that provides free healthcare, primary healthcare for children, for women, for the elderly. And we also have a robust private health sector, or rather private hospitals with modern equipment, modern treatment, and therefore we are heading in the right direction in terms of the health system.
That's good to hear.
Yes.
So let's talk about trade then. I mean, I'm probably very ignorant about this, but off the top of my head, I think of Kenya, I think of coffee. What are the main trade relationships like between Thailand and Kenya?
Yes, of course, when we talk of trade, coffee comes to our mind. Tea. Kenya's tea happens to be the best in the world, by the way, the best in the world. We now have a new breed of tea called purple tea, and I intend to promote purple tea in this part of the world. And given that the purple color is one of the colors that I have seen in most of the TV and media in Thailand. Purple is a royal color, and so I intend to be promoting purple tea in Thailand. I also intend to promote our coffee. Trade between Thailand and Kenya is not so robust compared to our trade with South Korea, say China or Japan or the UK or Uganda or Tanzania. It's not so robust. We have a few items that come into Thailand. For example, macadamia, nuts, vegetables, and some semi-processed minerals like gold. But not much has been done. And so one of the things that I plan to do upon being appointed the ambassador to Thailand was one, to promote, to deepen cooperation in the area of fresh produce. I would like to see a lot of Kenya's avocado in the supermarket here in Thailand.
Okay.
I'd like to see more of our coffee here in Thailand. I would like to see more of Kenyan tea, not English tea, in the shops in Thailand. Whether you call it Java or you call it Starbucks coffee, you'll find that in most of those coffee brands, there is always some Kenyan coffee inside. That is one thing that I intend to promote here in Thailand. We have a very huge expatriate community in Thailand, especially from Europe and America and Australia. And our coffee is very popular in those parts of the world. So with this community here, I believe that we will expand our coffee exports to Thailand.
Sorry, it's funny you say that, because on a recent show, my co-host and I did an episode where we talked about things that we were envious of that other countries had that Bangkok didn't have or wasn't so good at. And one of them was Vietnam's coffee culture. And Vietnam has a really, really lovely, artisanal coffee culture. And Bangkok or Thailand has an okay coffee culture, but I think it could be improved. So there you go. I mean, I hope to see Kenya blends at every little cool independent coffee shop. You can start a renaissance.
Wait until you taste Kenyan coffee, and I hope that one of these fine days we can have one-on-one, and I can give you a taste of Kenyan coffee so that you become our coffee ambassador here.
Hey, I come cheap. I could do a lot for a cup of good coffee.
Yeah, and of course, on the other side, we import a lot of products from Thailand. The Toyota double cab, the vehicles, double cab, Toyota and Ford are very popular in Kenya.
Oh, okay.
And quite a number of the middle class in Kenya is importing these kind of vehicles to Kenya. We buy medical equipment from Thailand. We buy pharmaceuticals from Thailand, computer parts and products from Thailand. So there's quite a lot going on, but I intend to do more, and I hope I can do more with the various stakeholders in Thailand.
Right. Now let's talk about expat communities and tourism. I know Kenya has a pretty sizable expat community here of Kenyans who live in Thailand, but it doesn't seem to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem to me that it's very reciprocal. I don't know if there's a big Thai community in Kenya, and it doesn't feel that Kenya is very big on the radar for a lot of Thai people when they think of overseas international tourism. Am I wrong on that?
Yes, we have a growing Kenyan community in Thailand, about 3,000.
Okay.
Spread in various parts of Thailand. Most of them are teachers, including English teachers. Others work as ICT experts. Some have lived in Thailand for over 30 years as doctors.
Oh, nice.
And working in other sectors. And of course, we also have the business community. We have those who travel here, stay for a few months, buy products, send them to Kenya. Some have settled here and have become agents of Thai products back at home in Kenya. So yes, the Kenyan community is growing. The African community, for that matter, is also growing in Thailand. But unfortunately, the Thai community is not growing on the other side. That is in Africa or for that matter. I'm not quite sure why this is so, but one or two things that I've been able to find out is there is insufficient information about Africa in this part of the world. There is also the problem of language. And I also believe that Western culture and Australian culture has created some kind of a perception that the people of this country tend to know more about the West, about Australia, and of course their neighbors here, than they know much about Africa. So there is scant information about Africa here, and it is our role as African ambassadors, as African expatriate community here, to become our own ambassadors in this part of the world. Ambassadors are not just the formal ambassadors like me. We have the community working as students, we have the student community, we have the business community, those working here, folks like you guys are also ambassadors at large, and you can promote the interests of where you have come from. So that is something that we as African community here have to do, to tell more about Africa to the Thai community so that they can also diversify the countries they visit. I had a chance to speak to one or two friends of mine here in Thailand, and I'm asking them, where do you visit most of the time? And they say they go to China.
Oh, yeah?
They visit China, and they go to Australia and America. What about Africa? Not much do we know about Africa. So really, there is a big problem in terms of information.
Yeah.
One thing that I intend to do also is to engage my colleagues from Africa and engage the media, especially the journalists here in Thailand. We want to facilitate a visit, maybe 2 weeks or even 3 weeks or even a month, for them to make a tour of select African countries so that they can bring that information in terms of tourism, about our environment, about our products, about our culture, so that we engage together in terms of promoting sufficient information about what is good in Africa. Africa is not just what the CNN talks about.
Yeah.
One time CNN said that it is a bastion of conflict. That is not what we need to be telling people about Africa.
Right.
There's good stuff coming from Africa. Let me just give you a quick small story before I hand back to you. In Turkey, I went to speak to a group of young children in primary school, and we had a very good conversation. And after my presentation, when it was question and answer time, one boy put up his hand and said, I have a question. And I said, go ahead. And he asked me, hey, do folks in Africa live in trees? So that, to escape from the lions? And it was the time that Ebola had just hit West Africa. So he also asked me, hey, is there Ebola in Kenya? And are you safe? So the boy was asking very innocent questions because he doesn't know much about Africa.
Sure.
Probably what his parents have told him is, it's a place of hunger, place of conflict. Maybe he has watched CNN or BBC and he's just seen, hunger and fighting and conflict. So our role here is also to change the narrative about Africa as an attractive place for tourists so that we can have folks from Thailand and the region also visiting Africa. Thank you.
Yeah, that reminds me of the old cliche story about Thailand where, I think maybe you've talked to people like this. I've talked to people where they go to university in another country or something, and someone says, oh, what happens in Thailand? And they say, oh, yeah, we ride elephants to school and, we live in the jungle. And people are like, really? Wow. But they don't know, right? Like it's partly the lack of like the penetration of the education, and it's also maybe a lack of inquisitiveness on the person's part. Like, it's easy to learn a lot about a place and dispel all those cliches and rumors, but you just have to be a bit proactive and learn about it.
Another story from Turkey. I went to speak to a class that was graduating in a high school, and there were 15 students. And I noticed that none of them had chosen a university in Africa. So everyone was going to Canada, to America, to Australia. A bit were going to Japan and Europe. And I asked, hey, why isn't there anyone going to Africa? Then I said, what, Africa? Are there universities in Africa? So you imagine that is the kind of story that is there. So really, our biggest challenge is information dissemination.
Yes. Yeah. I think you and your compatriots should band together and get that out there. I think a lot of people would be surprised with what they think and what the reality is.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, speaking of what you said earlier about Africa being a bastion of conflict, you have significant experience with international conflict and diplomacy studies. But you were saying earlier that previously before we were recording, you were saying that, to the layman like myself, Africa does have a pretty, so I don't know, say not bad reputation, but it's known as a place historically where there has been sort of this rolling, unending conflicts, not in Kenya itself, but just sort of continent-wide. But you said that things are changing and they're looking a bit better now. What's the landscape there, and what preconceived notions do people have that are wrong?
Africa has had a mix of blessings and conflict. Good things have come out of Africa as well as bad ones. But the landscape is changing. You will notice that soon after independence, of course, before independence, we had a struggle, freedom struggle. Many countries came to independence as a result of, fighting for their freedom. Kenya was one of them. Many Kenyans died because of fighting for freedom. But after independence, the expectations of many citizens of Africa was that with the freedom coming, social freedom would come, diseases would go away, illiteracy will go away, social progress will come. But unfortunately, the leaders who came then at that time, despite some of them forming the Organization of African Union, Africa became a place of military coups.
Yeah.
You would get an average of maybe 4 military coups in a year. This continued up to late 1990s. But at the onset of the new millennium, in the year 2000 and up to date, the number of military coups have gone down drastically to probably say 1. And so Africa's come a long way to do away with military coups. Africa's come a long way also to deal with conflicts, especially interstate conflicts or conflicts between states, as well as civil wars. The African Union today has done a great job in terms of promoting peace and security in Africa. Most of the civil wars have been done away. We are faced with a new challenge now from international terrorists, Al-Qaeda, especially in the Sahel, much of Northwest Africa. But much of Sub-Saharan Africa is now stable, except pockets here and there, like in the DRC Congo and Somalia, which is also affected by Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
But much of Africa is stable. I happen to have participated in the search for peace in the Sudan from around 2003 up to 2011, when South Sudan became independent of the North. So that is a success that I can attribute to the collective role of African states, the collective role of the African Union, as well as other regional and sub-regional groups to find peace and security in Africa. Kenya has been participating in many peace operations in Africa, previously in Uganda, in Angola, in Namibia, in Mozambique, currently in the DRC Congo. So African countries have gone out of their way to seek long-term peace, long-lasting peace among its neighbors, so that we can proudly say that we are a rising continent. We will silence the guns in Africa. We now have a vision known as the African Union Agenda 2063. And we're hoping that by 2063, all the guns will be silent in Africa. African people can be able to move from east to west, from south to north freely, without having to go to Europe, to go to another African country. I had a chance to travel to Cameroon one time, and I couldn't travel from Kenya. I had to go to West Africa to be able to reach Cameroon. But we are promoting air travel in Africa, inter-African air travel, road networks, railway network. We are building the standard gauge railway from Mombasa, Kenya. We hope it will be able to penetrate through Central Africa to the Atlantic coast, so that people from West Africa can travel by road to the east coast of Africa and move on to the rest of the world. So Africa is rising, and indeed with the Vision 2063, Africa is a place to go for business, whether I am appealing to investors from the West or from the East. Africa is the place to go for the future.
Fascinating. Well, as we're wrapping up here, as I said previously, you've had a lot of experience and study with global conflict studies and diplomacy around the world. But again, from a layman's point of view, like myself, when you look at the world today, someone like you, what do you see? Because for me, things aren't so great, and it's easy to get depressed or upset or be pessimistic about things. But maybe it's just a dip. What do you see when you look at the situation of how things are developing around the world in terms of governments and restriction of freedoms and things like this?
Thank you, Greg. Again, just before coming here, I was apart from being the director for Asia Pacific Affairs, I was also the coordinator for COVID-19 response in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I had a portfolio to deal with developing a strategy for the ministry on how to respond to COVID-19. I wrote over 200 letters to different countries, seeking counsel, seeking lessons, organizing virtual meetings between our health experts and health experts of these other countries countries, the global community came together. We didn't know this is a Chinese or this is a Kenyan or an African or a white man or a Russian, or everyone looked at each other as a human being until the vaccine came along, until it came to treatment. So, but in Africa, in Kenya, in this part of the world, we are looking for vaccines. People are dying because they can't get vaccines. Mm-hmm. But some few countries are keeping the vaccines in the store. That is not the human face that we are supposed to show. That is nationalism. That's alternationalism. That's selfishness. I cannot be safe in Kenya if you are not safe in Thailand or in the US. With globalization, people are traveling left, right, and center. Let us not be driven by selfishness. And that is my fear. That is what makes me think that the world is not heading in the right direction when it comes to issues of vaccine. I wish the trend that I saw last year, where we were all working together, continues. I don't know what went into the heads of many of us that when it comes to the COVID-19 issue, the vaccine, people turned inward. People became selfish.
Yeah.
But my call to countries and to humanity is that one day COVID-19 will go and we shall remain as human. Let us look at each other as human. Let us support each other. Let us come together.
Right.
As a human race to be able to deal with pandemics, climate change, which is a serious problem for all of us. And it's only through cooperation that we can be able to deal with some of these challenges facing humanity.
Yeah, a crisis like this tends to bring out both the best and the worst of us. And I guess what we have to do is concentrate on the best and see how we can keep that going and push the worst away and not concentrate on that.
Precisely.
Yeah. Well, sir, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's fascinating. I have one more very important question. One of the best actresses out there right now is from Kenya. She's in some of my favorite movies. Her name is Lupita. And how do you...
Nyong'o.
Nyong'o. How do you say the last name?
Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o.
Nyong'o. Okay, I got it. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Now I know how to say her name. She's been in some Star Wars movies. She won the Oscar for another one. She was in that fantastic movie called Us. And she's a Kenyan actress, so she's fantastic.
Yeah,
Nyong'o.
Sure. You can see that we have good stuff from Africa, like Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, more where that came from, right?
That is why we need to go to Africa.
I mean, it's on my very long list of places I want to go. As soon as this whole damn COVID thing finishes up, then.
Oh yes, thank you, and I'll be happy to facilitate your travel to Kenya to see some of the best wildlife in the world, to see the wild beast migration. One of the 7 wonders, you would be able to witness 700, 800,000 wild beasts all moving at the same time from Kenya to Tanzania and back to Kenya from Tanzania.
Awesome. That sounds great.
It's a sight to watch.
Oh, great. All right, Ambassador Lindsay Kiptiness, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you for broadening our horizons on what the relationship is like between Thailand and Kenya. And hopefully there will be a lot more Thais going to Africa and to Kenya just to experience what they have, because it sounds like an amazing place.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you, and look forward to having one-on-one with you soon. Coffee's on me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, sir. Keep up the good work, and we will hopefully see you when we're allowed outside again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dude, man, there's some perks to being the host of the Bangkok podcast. Like, you're racking up your ambassadors you've hung with.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Though you get to get a little platform to talk to some really neat people with cool stories from all over the world. It was really cool meeting Ambassador Kiptiness. He's such a nice guy.
He sounds like a really nice guy with a really cool background.
Yeah, we had a great conversation. So, we talked a lot about maybe following this up with a cup of Kenyan coffee. So hopefully, when all this COVID nonsense is over, I can see the ambassador again, and he can tell me more about Kenya. Because, I do have a very good friend of mine from high school lived there, and a few other friends have been there, and Kenya and a lot of countries in Africa just sound like a really, really incredible place to visit that I don't know a lot about.
I'm with you, man. I don't know a lot about it. It's fascinating to just try to get your head around the fact that there's, 190, 200 countries in the world, something like that. And they all have to figure out a way to get along with each other. So you could go to like Croatia, and then there's going to be a Kenyan ambassador or something. It's like it's pretty complex. And it means here in Thailand there's probably, I don't know if there's actually 190, but there's definitely probably at least 150 ambassadors here.
Right. I thought it was very interesting too, because, as over the decades that we've been here, we've talked to a lot of Thai people, and, there's always stories. Oh, I got to go to university. New Zealand, Australia, UK is big, France or Germany or America.
Sure.
But I have never met any Thai person that has shown any interest of going to Africa, like the story the ambassador said about when he was I think he said he was in Turkey. And, all of the university students were picking places to go to, and he's like, how come no one's choosing Africa? But Thais I'm guilty too. I don't know a lot about Africa, like I just said, but Thais just seem really not to know a lot about it, or not see it as a legitimate destination.
This reminds me of our buddy Professor Dan, the economist who came on our show, who's worked in Africa. I believe he met Thai friends in Liberia, of all places. I'll have to ask him about this, but because I've had this exact conversation with him before. Like, the relations between Thailand and Africa seem to not be strained, but there just doesn't seem to be strong ties or anything. But I think when Dan was in Liberia, I think he met some Thai people there, or they ran like a Thai restaurant or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, man. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about it, and over a cup of delicious coffee. So many thanks, Ambassador Kiptiness, for coming on the show. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Definitely.
All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with, no matter how we feel about it. The last time I asked Ed how he felt about the hello, yes, hello, phone conversation. So this week it is Ed's turn.
All right, I've got an interesting one. On the one hand, I think you could say this is something that would be hard to hate, but I'm just curious your take on this. So I want to ask you about what I'm going to call the gratuitous Thai bow, or the Thai Y. So in general, the Thai Y or Thai bow is cool. I love it. It's a bedrock of Thai culture. But I feel like in a way maybe the Thai Y has gotten watered down. Like, I feel like sometimes people are Ying me, and there's no need for them to do that. And in a way, it's polite. It's polite. But I thought of this today because I was at the supermarket, and there's a cashier, and there's a guy who's like bagging my stuff, and then he Y'd me, and I'm just like, I wanted to be like, dude, you don't have to do that. You just beg. This is, so he interacts with dozens of people per day, like, who knows, maybe more than 100, and he's got a Y every person. It's almost like, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like I want the Thai Y to be more formal. I want it to be reserved for. So like, do you like? I guess it's polite. So that to some extent this might apply to people like waiters or waitresses. Sometimes I feel like waiters or waitresses, they're, you walk into a restaurant, the greeter Ys you, and then the waitress Ys you, and sometimes I feel like it's kind of too much. I feel like it's kind of too much.
Like, it cheapens it.
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, first of all, I think a lot of these people in the service industry, that's probably the rule of their job. Like,
yeah, that's true. You can't blame them individually, right?
No, but that's an interesting concept, though. Like, I it doesn't bother me. This is a live with. I don't think about it one way or the other. But I also would be totally fine with the old magic Thai head nod cap.
That's right. Yeah, I wonder. This is the kind of thing where I wonder if even older Thai people, so like people you'd think who would be conservative and very into Thai culture, I might actually be on the same page with them. Like, I'm wondering if older Thai people might think that the Thai Y is now being overused. Like, it's being used in too many circumstances.
Interesting. You know, this reminds me of a pet peeve I have when people refer to the U.S. president as the president of the United States of America. It's like, the president of the United States of America supports this. You're like, you can just say the president. We get it. We know who you're talking about.
Oh, that's funny. The president.
You know?
The president, right?
Yeah, like we get it. So, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting take, though. I wouldn't be
I can't say I
opposed to
loathe it. I
them.
mean, I can't say I loathe it, but it is something that I just feel like I kind of wish they wouldn't do it. I don't know. It just feels a little bit weird to be lied to by the guy who bagged my groceries. I don't know why I'm hung up on that.
But the Y, you're right though. The Y is a special.
It's supposed
sort
to
of
be
unique touchstone of Thai culture.
I want it to be something more special.
Yeah, it's like not every high five can be the one where you also go down and then clap hands on the bottom as well, right? Like that's reserved for special events.
That's right. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, interesting one. I would say I'm a live with on that one, but I wouldn't be remiss if they scaled it back a little bit.
I say reserve it for more important circumstances. That's just my take.
All right. Well, real quick, we're going to do something we haven't done in a while. We asked our listeners to send us a voicemail on the Line app if they have something to say, and a few did. So thank you for people who sent in their messages. So we're going to play the first one. We're going to string them out over the next few shows. And this week we heard from our friends Joe and Weena.
Hey guys, it's Joe and Weena from New York. Just wanted to say hello. We love the show.
Hi, Greg, Ed. สวัสดีค่ะ
And that's it. All right, bye.
All right, that was sweet, man. I like that they called in.
Yeah, cool. Good to hear from them.
So, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Chanon Setuan for lending us his support at the show shout-out level. Greg, what did you find out about Chanon?
Well, Chanon and I had a nice chat over email, and he didn't surrender too much information. I said, hey, tell us some funny stories. And he's like, I don't have a lot of funny stories. But he did give me a little bit of info. He basically said, I'm Chanon, and I'm a Thai guy currently studying shipping, trade, and finance in London of the United Kingdom.
Interesting.
Yeah. He said, I always enjoy listening to your podcast about news and updates happening at home while I'm abroad. I don't have any cool stories, but I'm a really passionate foodie who always loves Thai food and wants to go back home just to have some khao soi nila and masaman curry.
Nice. I love both of those things, except I don't eat the meat anymore, but I still like it.
Masaman was one of my favorites, man. I dig that. So I wrote him back and I was like, dude, when you come back to Bangkok, we got to go out for some masaman curry. This is one of my favorites too.
I'm with you.
But it did make me think about another very Thai thing about how, like, man, maybe it's just my wife. I don't know, but I don't think so. But Thais are so tied to their food when they travel.
Oh yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I've never met anyone from another country who pines for their home cuisine when they're traveling.
Yeah, I
as
think
much
that's
as Thai
true.
people.
I think that's true. And they always struggle to find the real authentic thing when they're traveling.
Yeah. Well, Chanon, I hope you found some authentic enough food in
That's right.
London. And let us know when you're back in town, and we'll get some vegetarian masaman. No, Ed will get some vegetarian masaman. You and I will eat the meat stuff.
All right. Thank you, Chanon.
Yeah, thanks, man.
A final thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
True that. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You can send us a voicemail online that will feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. Take it easy, and we will see you back here next week.
For sure.
You want to say hello to my son?
Hi, how are you?
He can't hear you, but this is my friend Lindsay.
Welcome to Kenya. Tell him I'm saying welcome to Kenya.
He's from a country called Kenya. We'll go there one day, all right? Kenya, yeah. It's cool.
In Africa.
In Africa, they've got elephants and zebras and everything.
Elephants and zebras.
And coffee. You like coffee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm almost done here, buddy. Just give me 5 more minutes, okay? Thanks.
That's cool.